everybody, and welcome to another deep dive. This time it's all about you. And a question that you sent in about Cane Corsos in Flyball.
Ooh, that's interesting.
Yeah, you sent over some articles, pasted text, and pasted text.
Mhm.
And it sounds like you're maybe thinking of adding a Cane Corso to your team.
Okay.
Or maybe you're just sort of exploring the possibilities.
Yeah.
And I gotta admit, even I was picturing in my head this like giant Cane Corso like soaring over these hurdles. It's both comical and impressive. Like,
Yeah.
could they really do that?
Right.
Well, luckily we have our expert here
Sure.
who can break down not just flyball as a sport, but also, athletically speaking, what makes a cane corso tick.
Absolutely.
So to start us off, can you give us kind of like a flyball 101, like what actually happens in this sport?
Yeah, so flyball is basically like a relay race for dogs, but with a little bit more oomph to it. So you have teams of 4 dogs,
Okay.
and they each like sprint down a lane, they jump over 4 hurdles,
Yeah.
and then they hit this spring-loaded box that like shoots out a tennis ball.
Oh, okay.
Then they got to catch it midair, do like a really quick turn, and then race back over the hurdles to the finish line.
Wow.
So there's a lot of speed, a lot of teamwork, a lot of precision. It's a very action-packed sport.
Okay, so just even hearing you describe it, I can imagine like the coordination and the training that must go into that.
Oh, yeah.
So where do cane corsos like fit into this like high speed world?
That's where it gets really interesting because Cane Corsos, they're powerful dogs, but they're not typically what you would think of as a flyball contender. They're significantly larger than a lot of the other breeds that are on the course.
Okay.
So, that size can affect everything from their speed to their agility.
So it's not just about like how fast they can run, but like how they handle like the tight turns, the jumps with like a larger frame.
Absolutely. And even like, jump height is regulated in flyball.
Oh, right. Yeah.
So the whole team has to jump at a height that's set for the shortest dog on the team.
Uh-huh.
So if you have a Cane Corso, say they need a 10-inch jump height,
Wow.
and you have teammates who can clear like 16 inches, suddenly they're all jumping at 10 inches.
So wait, does that mean that like a whole flyball team is limited by the shortest dog? Like that could be a huge disadvantage for a team with a cane corso.
That's exactly right. Yeah, it's a key strategic consideration when you're thinking about team composition.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
That's a really important point. I hadn't even thought about that. So right off the bat, the cane corso's size could actually impact the team's overall performance.
Exactly.
So then what about like their endurance?
Yeah.
Could they even like keep up with these quick bursts of energy that flyball demands?
So Cane Corsos, they are athletic. There's no doubt about that. But they're not bred for the same explosive sprints as some of your more classic flyball breeds like Border Collies or
Right.
Whippets. They're more about controlled power. So that means that you really have to like build up their endurance gradually. And it might be different than how you train a smaller, more naturally high energy dog.
Interesting. Okay, so we've got like the size, the endurance to think about. What else should somebody be thinking about if they're considering flyball with a cane corso?
Well, we can't forget ball drive.
Right.
Now, some Cane Corsos, they are very ball motivated,
Yeah.
but others, they might not be as naturally inclined to chase and retrieve.
Hmm.
You really got to know your individual dog. And this is crucial in flyball because that ball, that's their reward.
Right.
That's what motivates them to do the whole course.
So some cane corsos might need a little more like encouragement than just the thrill of the ball.
You might have to get creative with rewards, maybe use some treats,
Uh-huh.
Praise, or maybe even a favorite tug toy.
Oh, okay.
It's all about finding what makes your Corso tick
Okay.
and tailoring your approach.
That makes sense. I mean, every dog is different, even within the same breed.
Absolutely.
But, I'm still kind of picturing this like big, powerful dog like navigating those tight turns around that tiny ball box.
Yeah.
Like, is that even realistic?
It can be, but it takes a lot of training, and you have to make some smart adaptations.
Okay.
So, for example, when you're practicing those box turns, use a sturdier box, maybe a larger box.
Okay.
That gives them a little bit more room to maneuver.
Yeah.
And reduces the risk of them like crashing into it.
Oh, so it's like giving them like a bigger target to hit.
Exactly.
Which makes sense given their size. Okay, so I'm starting to see how much thought actually needs to go into this. But even with all of those adjustments, I mean, aren't there still some inherent challenges in like having a cane corso compete in flyball?
You're right to bring that up. There are definitely challenges, specifically with the breed that owners need to be aware of. One major one is overheating.
Oh, right.
Cane Corsos with their short muzzles and thick coats, they can overheat more easily than other breeds,
Right.
especially during intense activity like flyball.
Okay, so what kind of precautions would somebody need to take to prevent that? I'm imagining lots of water breaks.
Absolutely. Frequent water breaks are crucial,
Okay.
but you can also utilize cooling vests.
Uh-huh.
Specifically for deep-chested breeds like the Cane Corso, these vests can help regulate their body temperature.
Okay, so we got cooling vests, plenty of water. Anything else? I'm thinking about like the impact of all that jumping on their joints.
That's another important consideration. Cane Corsos, they are prone to joint issues,
Right.
and that repetitive jumping in flyball, that can put extra stress on their joints, especially as they age.
Yeah.
It's not something to take lightly.
So what's the best way to manage that risk? Like, would supplements help? Or maybe a different kind of training approach?
I think working closely with your vet is key.
Okay.
They can help you monitor your Cane Corso's joint health,
Yeah.
maybe recommend some appropriate supplements,
Okay.
advise you on exercise routines that'll minimize stress on their joints.
So just like a very proactive approach to joint health is essential,
Absolutely.
especially for this breed. So it sounds like we're uncovering quite a few hurdles, so to speak.
Yeah.
When it comes to getting a Cane Corso into competitive flyball, I mean, are we even sure it's a good idea at this point?
Well, let's be realistic. While some Cane Corsos might excel in flyball with the right training and management, it's not a sport that naturally plays to their strengths.
Okay.
However, that doesn't mean they can't benefit from flyball-inspired activities.
Okay. I see where you're going with this.
Yeah.
So maybe competitive flyball is a long shot, but what about incorporating some of the elements of the sport, like into their training, for fun and for exercise?
Exactly. You could set up mini courses in your backyard.
Okay.
Adjust the jump heights to suit your Corso.
Okay.
And just focus on having fun together.
Yeah.
You can even adapt the rules
Uh-huh.
to better suit their strengths and limitations.
That makes a lot of sense. So even if they're not like competing on a team, they can still enjoy, the thrill of the chase, the mental stimulation of learning new skills, and obviously the physical benefits of the activity.
Exactly. It's about finding that balance between challenging them and making sure they enjoy it.
Hmm.
Pushing their boundaries, but making sure that their well-being comes first.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it. So we've talked about the challenges, the adaptations, and this potential for fun with these flyball-inspired activities. But before we completely write off competitive flyball for Cane Corsos, are there any success stories out there? Like, have any Cane Corsos actually, defied the odds and made it in the flyball world?
Yeah, while it's less common, there are Cane Corsos that compete and even excel in flyball.
Wow.
These are often dogs with, exceptional ball drive and athleticism, and of course, owners who put in the time and effort to address all those breed-specific challenges that we've been talking about.
Okay, so it's not impossible, but it takes a very, very specific combination of the dog, the owner's dedication, and careful management. So what would you say is the most important takeaway for somebody who's considering A&Y activity with their Cane Corso, whether it's flyball or something else entirely?
I think the key is remembering that every Cane Corso is an individual.
Yeah.
They have their own personalities, physical capabilities, motivations.
Right.
What works for one might not work for another.
So it's not about trying to fit the dog into a predetermined mold,
Exactly.
but finding activities that fit the dog.
Yeah.
I'm sensing a theme here.
You got it.
All right, so let's dive a little deeper into, how you figure out what's right for your individual Cane Corso.
Okay. And that's where being a really good observer of your dog comes in.
Okay.
Really pay attention to your Cane Corso, what gets them excited, what are they naturally gravitating towards.
Right.
Those are your clues to finding the perfect fit.
That's such great advice because it's so easy to get caught up in what WE think they should be doing.
Right, exactly.
But it's really about them telling us.
Absolutely. And, once you have a good sense of their personality, their physical capabilities, the next step is to build up gradually
Okay.
and thoughtfully.
Mm-hmm.
Don't expect them to be like a champion overnight.
Right.
Or even in a few months.
Yeah.
Start with the basics, whether it's obedience training, leash manners, even just getting them comfortable with different environments.
So even if you're dreaming of your Cane Corso, doing flyball or agility,
Yeah.
laying that foundation of basic training is really important.
Absolutely. It builds a strong bond between you and your dog.
Uh-huh.
It teaches them how to learn,
Right.
helps them develop the discipline, both physically and mentally, that they'll need for any activity.
Mm-hmm.
And just like with human athletes, You wouldn't throw someone into a marathon without proper training.
Yeah, that's a great analogy. And speaking of conditioning, you mentioned Cane Corsos being prone to joint issues. How would somebody know if their Cane Corso was like experiencing discomfort, during training or an activity?
That's where knowing your dog's body language is so key.
Okay.
Watch for any signs of limping, stiffness,
Yeah.
reluctance to jump or move, even changes in their behavior, like becoming withdrawn or irritable.
Okay.
Those are all red flags that something might be off.
So it's not just about like pushing them to their limits, but like really paying attention to how they're responding and
Exactly.
then adjusting
Yeah.
accordingly.
It's a constant conversation with your dog,
Yeah.
this back and forth,
Uh-huh.
understanding what they need
Right.
and pushing them just enough to challenge them, but not overwhelming them. And of course, checkups with your vet are really important
Oh, for sure.
for monitoring their overall health, catching any potential issues early.
So having a good relationship with your vet is like crucial,
Ab-
especially for a breed like the Cane Corso. Okay, shifting gears a little bit, let's talk about motivation. You mentioned earlier that, not all Cane Corsos are ball driven.
Right.
So what are some other ways to motivate a Cane Corso, during training or activities?
This is where that knowing your individual dog thing comes in again.
Okay.
Some Cane Corsos, they're very food motivated, so treats can be like magic.
Right.
Other Cane Corsos, they might thrive on praise and affection,
Okay.
or even like a good game of tug of war with their favorite toy.
Oh, okay.
So it's about experimenting.
So it's really about finding what gets that tail wagging.
Exactly, exactly. And, motivation can change over time.
Oh, okay.
What worked when they were a puppy might not work when they're an adult,
Right.
So stay flexible,
Yeah.
adjust your approach as needed.
It makes sense. Dogs are like people. They have their own preferences that change. But
Yeah.
like at the end of the day, what's the most important thing to remember when doing ANY activity with a Cane Corso?
It sounds so simple, but it's so easy to forget when you're caught up in training and, maybe even competition.
Yeah.
Make sure your Corso's having fun.
Yes.
If they're not enjoying it, what's the point?
Right.
The joy of the experience, that shared bond between you and your dog, that's what matters.
I love that. It's such a good reminder that it's not about the ribbons
Right.
or the titles.
Yeah.
It's about the connection and those positive experiences
Absolutely.
we create with our dogs. But speaking of other activities, we've focused a lot on Flyball,
Right.
which, as we've discussed, may not be the perfect fit for every Cane Corso.
Right.
So what are some other activities that might be better suited to their strengths and temperament?
Oh, there's so many possibilities. Cane Corsos, they're intelligent, they're loyal, eager to please,
Yep.
and that makes them great for a lot of different activities. One that comes to mind is weight pulling.
Okay.
They have the strength, the stamina to excel in that.
Right.
And a lot of Corsos really enjoy it.
Weight pulling, that's where they like pull a weighted cart, right?
Yep.
Yeah, I could see that being a good fit for a Cane Corso.
Yeah. And their
Yeah.
intelligence and their loyalty, it also makes them great candidates for search and rescue work.
Oh, wow.
They have that great sense of smell, the determination to track
Right.
and, locate missing persons. And of course, a lot of Cane Corsos enjoy the water.
Yeah.
So dock diving could be another good option. Imagine them jumping off a dock into the water. It's pretty amazing to see.
I bet. And so those are all activities that really kind of tap into different parts of their personality and their physical abilities. Are there any activities that you would advise, like, against with a Cane Corso?
Yeah, activities that involve like a lot of repetitive jumping, like agility, can be rough on their joints,
Yeah.
especially if you're not managing it really carefully.
Okay.
And because of their size and their strength,
Mm-hmm.
it's generally not recommended to, do activities that encourage aggression,
Right.
like protection sports or anything like that.
It's about channeling their energy
Exactly.
and their abilities into safe, enriching activities.
Absolutely.
So I feel like we've covered so much ground here,
We have.
from the specifics of Flyball to this broader idea of, what's the right activity for your Cane Corso. But before we wrap up completely, I want to kind of come back to something you said earlier about Cane Corsos being individuals.
Right.
It seems like that's the biggest takeaway. It's not about generalizing.
Exactly.
It's about really understanding your individual dog.
Absolutely. And that goes beyond just their physical abilities and temperament. It's also their emotional needs, their learning style, their energy levels. The more you understand your Corso as an individual, the better you'll be able to choose those activities
Right.
that bring them joy, fulfillment, a sense of purpose.
So it's not even just about finding the right activity, it's about creating like the right experience for that individual dog.
You got it.
And and I imagine that can evolve over time.
Absolutely. What your Cane Corso enjoys as a puppy might be totally different than what they enjoy as an adult.
Right.
Be open to trying new things.
Yeah.
Adjusting your approach,
Uh-huh.
always putting their well-being and happiness first.
That is such great advice. It's about the journey and the bond and the shared experiences more than any specific activity.
Exactly.
So for our listener out there who's thinking about all these different options, how would they start to explore what might be a good fit for their Cane Corso?
I think the first step is observation. Just watch your Corso.
Mm-hmm.
What are they drawn to naturally? What gets them excited? What do they seem to really enjoy?
So really paying attention to their cues.
Exactly. Their body language, their energy levels. And don't be afraid to try different things.
Yeah.
Sign them up for an obedience class, take them to the dog park, see how they are with other dogs, even introduce them to some agility equipment in the backyard.
So just experiment.
Exactly. See what sparks their interest.
And there are resources out there to help, right?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, talk to breeders, trainers, other Cane Corso owners.
Absolutely. Tap into that community of knowledge and experience.
And of course, your veterinarian.
Of course, always.
They can offer guidance on activities that are safe and appropriate
Exactly.
for their age and health and condition.
Absolutely. Your vet can be an invaluable resource.
Well, I think we've given our listener a lot to think about,
I hope so.
from flyball to weight pulling, to search and rescue, even dock diving. I mean, the possibilities are endless.
They are?
But before we completely wrap up, I want to throw one final question out there.
Okay.
Just to keep those creative juices flowing. We've talked about, activities that play to a Cane Corso's strengths. But what about things that are maybe a little more unexpected, Could a Corso, like with their intelligence and trainability, could they do something like scent work? Or even therapy work?
I love those suggestions. Scent work where they're using their nose to find hidden scents. It's a fantastic way to tap into those natural scenting abilities.
Yeah.
And give them some mental stimulation.
Yeah?
And then therapy work, they're so gentle, they're loyal.
Yeah.
They could be amazing therapy dogs.
Right.
Bringing comfort and companionship to people who need it. It really highlights how versatile they are.
Yeah, it's amazing to think about all the different possibilities. Like I'm already picturing, a Cane Corso with a therapy vest going and visiting people in hospitals and bringing smiles to people's faces. It's such a far cry from that image of them like barreling down a flyball course.
Yeah.
But it goes to show you that there really is an activity out there for every dog.
Yeah.
No matter their breed or their size.
And that's what makes exploring all these options so exciting.
Right.
You never know, what you might uncover
Yeah.
with your Corso.
Right.
What hidden talents, what passions, Keep an open mind, experiment.
Yeah.
But most importantly, just have fun.
Have fun. Yeah. I think that's a perfect note to end on.
Absolutely.
So we've gone from flyball frenzy to this whole world of possibilities for Cane Corsos.
Yeah.
And it just goes to show that there's so much more to this breed than meets the eye. And to our listener out there, I hope this deep dive has given you, a new perspective on what your Cane Corso can do. Remember, it's all about finding those activities that bring them joy, build that strong bond, and just let your Cane Corso shine in their own unique way. So keep exploring, keep learning, and keep those tails wagging.
Absolutely.